What is up, everyone? It is Landry here with another episode of Cheeseheadz Weekly. We're here after a big-time blowout, I guess you could say, preseason loss, 27-2 versus the Denver Broncos in Denver. We'll break that all down, and I'll give my reactions here coming right up. Before I do that, just to let you know that you can leave a comment on Spotify or on YouTube or on the website if you're listening there, and give me your feedback or any questions you may have, any comments on the show. That would be much appreciated. I also post a poll on Spotify every week, so you can check that out and vote in that just to have a little bit of fun. The show is available anywhere you get podcasts, as well as on YouTube in video form. Be sure to check me out. Hit that subscribe or follow button wherever you are. It's all totally free, and it would be much appreciated. It helps to grow the show. You can hit the notification bell on YouTube or Spotify if you'd like to be notified when a new episode comes out. New episodes do come out every Tuesday, or normally every week sometime. I try to make it Tuesday. You can also tell your friends about the show. It's a great way to get the word out. And you can rate the show on Spotify and rate and review on Apple Podcasts. That also helps to grow the show as well. You can follow me on social media: Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, at Cheeseheadz_weekly, except for X, which is at Cheeseheadz_W. You can check out the website at greatcove.net/Cheeseheadz. The heads part spelled with a Z. Be sure to check that out. We'll get right into this one. Should be a shorter episode. Of course, if I say that, it might end up being longer. But basically, this is strictly going to be going over the preseason game and just noting a few things relating to some of the fringe roster battles, positions, and what the 53-man roster could look like. And we'll just kind of go from there and see what happens. So, first, the game, like I said, Broncos over Packers, 27-2. From what I've heard, and I didn't read all the updates, I listened to an episode of the Pack-A-Day podcast. Andy Herman broke a few things down, and basically it sounds like the Broncos got the better of the Packers in the joint practice leading up to this game on Friday, I believe it was, or maybe it was Saturday, I'm not sure. Friday or Saturday in Denver, there was a joint practice. Packers did not do all that great there, and they did not respond quite the way Matt LaFleur wanted after that in this preseason game, and kind of fell down on the job. The only points they scored were on a safety, on a sack of Zach Wilson in the end zone by Zach Morton, I believe it was. I literally don't even know who this guy is. It's kind of crazy. Like, I've thought I knew at least the names of most of these guys, but I had never heard of this guy before, and multiple of the guys watching the highlights. The Packers did sit 31 players, and I guess I can read them off here real quickly. If I can find it. But 31 players, basically all the starters, plus some number twos, I don't know. Basically all the starters, I guess, is what it was. Yep, it was the Zach Morton sack that kept them from shutout. I don't remember seeing his name before. But here are the 31 players: Quay Walker, Josh Jacobs, Christian Watson, Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander, Keyshawn Nixon, A.J. Dillon, Xavier McKinney, Marshawn Lloyd, Jarvion Howard, Carrington Valentine, Zach Tom, Keyshawn Banks, Rashawn Gary, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, Rasheed Walker, Donovan Jennings, Josh Myers, Elton Jenkins, Jordan Morgan, Tucker Kraft, Romeo Dobbs, Luke Musgrave, Preston Smith, TJ Slayton, Devontae Wyatt, and Kenny Clark. So that's a lot of players. Basically all their main contributors likely during the regular season are the ones that did not play in the game. So the Packers did not end up with too many injuries after the game. They added 5 new players to the injury list to start the final preseason week. One was A.J. Dillon with a stinger. It's not really clear where that injury cropped up, but that definitely explains why he didn't play in the preseason game. Andre Dillard has a shoulder injury. He did play in the game. Tyler Davis also has a shoulder injury. He also played in that game and did not play well at all. We'll get into that a little bit more later. Preston Smith has an illness, so likely nothing serious. Spencer Ouija, I don't even know how to say his name, but he has a concussion. Not huge there. He also played in the game. Rookie linebacker Raylan Goforth was also out on Tuesday as well today, as I'm recording the show, due to a concussion he suffered in the game. Edgerrin Cooper is returning to practice today, Tuesday, August 20. So that is great news. Hopefully we can get him some preseason reps in the final game of the season. As it stands right now, it does not appear that Edgerrin Cooper is going to be a day one starter at linebacker like most of us thought he would be because he's been injured. And Isaiah McDuffie has just took the job and ran with it, basically, and he's been playing outstanding football. And so I expect Isaiah McDuffie to get the job to start the year, mainly. I'm sure they'll rotate Cooper in, and it's possible he could earn more and more snaps throughout the season as he continues to develop. But as of now, I think it's Isaiah McDuffie's job to lose. He's definitely earned it thus far. So, in the game, I'll get into my players of the game. I admit I only do 3 players of the game. And it was a little difficult to find them this week. But we'll get into those in a minute. The Packers did not play well. The quarterbacks, specifically, did not play well at all. Sean Clifford kind of did what Sean Clifford's been doing. He's not had a great training camp, and he kind of showed that again in this game. And it's not really what we like to see. not really, not great at all. And so it's up for debate a little bit who the backup quarterback is going to be. We don't really know at this point. I think it's still Sean Clifford's job to lose. We haven't seen quite enough from Michael Pratt to completely take Clifford out of the equation, but he's been struggling. He's thrown a lot of interceptions in camp, and I've always been the type of guy that's like, okay, interceptions in camp, not a big deal to me. Camp is the time to make those mistakes, to figure things out, and, well, the thing is, he's not figured anything out. He's still throwing tons of interceptions, threw one in this preseason game. Just kind of off his back foot, not a good pass at all. Defender able to jump it easily. So, definitely not something we want to see from Clifford, but Michael Pratt looked pretty good. It has looked better, I would say, than Clifford throughout the majority of training camp, and the first preseason game he was decent as well. He got more playing time in this preseason game and was not near as good. He's been very accurate in practice and in the game against the Browns, but really struggled in this one. Was not nearly as accurate. Did get more playing time than Clifford did, or at least had more pass attempts. I think actually Clifford played the first half and Pratt played the second, was how it played out, if I remember correctly. Clifford went 6 for 10 for 43 yards and an interception. Took a sack. His passer rating was 30.4. Michael Pratt, slightly better, not great. Went 10 for 16, 52 yards. Also took a sack, was a strip sack. He lost the fumble there to the Broncos, turned the ball over on that one. Had a passer rating of 67.7. So, not great, and would like to see a lot better. And fans have been asking, questions. Well, maybe they got to bring in another quarterback. Not sure who that would be at this point. So I'm not sure you really can do that, but it could be interesting to see how things look in the last preseason game versus the Ravens. This one will be at home. They also have a joint practice with the Ravens before that game in Green Bay, so that'll be something to watch as well. Packers have not done really good at joint practices the last 2 seasons now, last season and so far this off season, so it'll be something to monitor. And the Ravens obviously have a really good team, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes a little bit better. Just a lot of missed throws in this one, a few drops, but we'll get into the players of the game here real quick, and then I guess we'll go from there. I don't have 3 on each side of the ball like I normally do. Actually, in this one, I have 2 on offense, 2 on defense. I could have maybe scrounged and around for another one that made a nice play here or there, but there wasn't really any really dominant players. So on the offensive side, I thought Emmanuel Wilson kind of is stacking days. Looked really good. Now, if you look at the box score, he went 13 for 41, 3.2 average. So that doesn't look great. Part of it is just the bad blocking. The blocking really struggled as well. The offensive line was rough in pass protection and run blocking, and running backs were hitting the backfield multiple times trying to run the ball. So not something you want to see, and there's not a whole lot a back can do with that. But Emmanuel Wilson looked quick. He looked explosive, same as before, and had a 15-yard run. Had a couple nice runs in there, and I was really impressed with how well he ran with the ball again. Another one is Malik Heath. He had kind of an up and down day versus the Browns in week 1 of preseason. He led all Packers receivers in receiving in this one with the great stat line of 3 receptions, 22 yards. And no touchdowns. So he basically, Michael Pratt and Sean Clifford each kind of missed him open deep. And early in the game, Clifford missed him by just a little bit. That could have helped change the game from the beginning. But Malik Heath was getting open, making plays, and that was good to see. On the defensive side of the ball, I'd say the biggest standout of the game, the guy that really stood out, would be Christian Welch, the linebacker. Likely, if he makes the roster, will be another special teams guy. It was an undrafted free agent that the Packers re-signed on a 1-year deal. Very cheap. So he's very much a special teams guy. Probably won't be playing a ton of linebacker, but he showed if they need him in a pinch, if the injuries hit hard, he can play. And he was flying around making tackles. Definitely made some plays, and that's good to see. Very impressive stuff from Christian Welch. And I'm sure the Packers are happy to see that. The next defensive player is Brenton Cox Jr. He had a sack in this one. Very nice play on that one. Beat a double team and created a pressure and a hurried throw as well. He's, again, kind of like a lot of the guys on the Packers roster. Great as a pass rusher. Not quite as good against the run. But definitely Cox has been flashing, and so we'll see if he can make his way onto the roster and find a way to contribute for this team. Speaking of the roster, we're going to look at my 53-man roster prediction that I made earlier this offseason, episode 71, it looks like. So some things could be shaken up here. We'll start with quarterback. Jordan Love, obviously the starter. Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt, still a little bit unknown. Clifford, again, was going to get every opportunity to win this job. He is not convincingly at all, and so it should be interesting to see how the final preseason game goes. Could come down to that, and we'll see who wins the backup job. Either way, we just have to hope and pray that Jordan Love stays healthy, because I don't really feel very good about either of those guys starting for the Packers next season. At running back, it looks like we have Josh Jacobs locked in, likely A.J. Dillon locked in, and then it's a little bit interesting after that. You have Emmanuel Wilson, who's been showing out, and you have Marshawn Lloyd, who is currently injured and has not done a whole lot on the field because of injury. So, not sure what the Packers would do here. I'm not sure they can. I don't think they can release, what is a third-round pick in Marshawn Lloyd, or maybe it was a second-rounder. I think it was a third-round pick in Marshawn Lloyd. Someone will scoop him up off the waivers. I can about guarantee that. So I think Marshawn Lloyd is going to have to make the roster. They're going to have to keep him on, and the question is, what do they do about Emmanuel Wilson? Because if they release him, he could be scooped up as well, as good as he's been playing. So certainly a little bit of a dilemma there, and not really sure how they're going to approach that. I would like to see Emmanuel Wilson stick around, and I don't think they're going to release Dillon at this point. He's drawn a lot of praise from coaches about how good he looks in camp, and of course he sat out with the starters, which it could have been because of injury too, not sure. But yeah, it's definitely makes for an interesting debate, and definitely some decisions to be made there. And I think that's pretty much the tightest position. Like, it's really, they're really gonna struggle, and I don't think they're gonna keep 4 running backs, so it should be interesting to see how they approach that. As far as wide receiver, if they keep 6, it looks like Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks are locked in. That's 4. Then it does get a little bit interesting. You have Bo Melton, Malik Heath, and Grant DeBose, kind of the 3 that are vying for the last 2 spots. I would assume, based on what Bo Melton did last year, that he would get one of them. I don't think he's locked by any means, though. He hasn't had a fantastic camp, has struggled with drops at times, and so we'll see if he can step things up here the final week of camp and the last preseason game. Malik Heath had a good game last week. Grant DeBose had a great game before that and has had a good camp. So I think at this point I can say Grant DeBose is making the roster. I think it might almost be between Melton and Heath. If I had to make a prediction, I would say it's Melton and DeBose that make the roster, and they try to keep Heath around on the practice squad. Basically, I'm guessing they're going to release the one that they hope they can get back on the practice squad, because I think they like all those guys. I'm just not sure they're willing to keep 7 at this point. But we'll see how that shakes out as well. At tight end, it'll be Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. And then things get a little bit interesting. There's Ben Sims, Tyler Davis, and Joel Wilson, who had a nice day against the Browns. Didn't really hear a whole lot of anything happening against the Broncos, which not a whole lot happened anywhere, but he did catch 1 pass for 4 yards on 2 targets. I think my guess is Ben Sims makes the roster, and if they keep a 4th tight end, it's probably Tyler Davis. He really did not play very well at all. Was missing all kinds of blocks. Ended up with a shoulder injury then. I don't know what was going on there. Packers have praised him nonstop. He's coming off an ACL injury. I don't know. It was not... he did not play well at all, especially when run blocking, which is likely what his role would be if he made the roster. So, other than just warming the bench. At offensive line, things definitely could get interesting. I would say the locks are Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, Zach Tom, and Jordan Morgan. Not really sure after that, and that is 6. They have depth inside, a lot of guys that can play inside. The swing tackle position is definitely up for grabs and not at a great spot. Now, Jordan Morgan could maybe play tackle in a pinch if you need him to, but it looks like he is primed to be the starting right guard with Sean Ryan filling in, and he'll likely be backup guard and or backup center, as he's been getting a good many center reps. Andre Dillard did play fairly decent and did not allow a pressure or sack in 7 pass blocking snaps. Not a huge sample size there, but maybe he can kind of take that job. I think at this point he's probably the only one that has any chance of getting there, although Luke Tenuta quietly had a very nice day, was PFF's highest graded player on offense against the Broncos. So maybe he makes the roster. Don't really know about undrafted rookie Donovan Jennings, who I think the Packers were high on when they brought him in. He's been injured a lot. I think maybe he's still injured. Not totally sure about that. He didn't play in the game, so I'm guessing that means he's injured. Otherwise, I'm guessing he would play. Jacob Monk has flashed at times. He's mainly an interior guy. He probably makes the roster. So it's Andre Dillard, Jacob Monk, Luke Tenuta. With that performance, will probably make the roster. And then if you're keeping 10, I have to look at the depth chart here real quick to see the other guys potentially in contention for another spot. There is Kadeem Telford, has not really played very well. Travis Glover, same there. So Kadeem Telford has got some reps with the ones, has not really played well in preseason games. Not really sure how that shakes out, so that is another interesting spot, and definitely could be a little stronger. Not as strong as kind of we hoped, I guess, but we'll see how that works. Defensive line looks locked in. Clark, Slayton, Wyatt, Brooks, Wooden. Defensive end looks pretty good as well. Gary, Smith, Enigbari, Van Ness. And if they keep a fifth, Brenton Cox. Unless, looking at the depth chart here real quick. Yeah, there's not really any other really great options other than those. Those are probably the ones that'll make it. On the defensive line, Jonathan Ford is definitely a guy you could keep an eye on. He seems to still be quietly doing his thing in camp and likely won't get on the roster, but could find a spot on the practice squad. At inside linebacker, it's Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper, and Eric Wilson. Likely, that was my prediction earlier in episode 71. Walker and McDuffie would be the nickel linebackers. Walker is going to be the kind of the middle linebacker, I'm guessing. Pretty much he'll likely be wearing the green dot, kind of the leader of the group. Edgerrin Cooper may get on the field in base defense, but the nickel linebacker looks to be Isaiah McDuffie at this point. Tyron Hopper was involved a little bit in last game. He's a guy to keep an eye on. Was injured for a good part of the beginning of camp, so he's trying to catch up on things. Eric Wilson, the steady vet, will likely get on here. I'm guessing Tyron Hopper makes the roster because I don't think he will clear waivers. Eric Wilson and Christian Welch is kind of the debate at the fifth linebacker spot. It's possible to keep 6 and keep both of them. Not sure how that'll work because they'd have to take a player somewhere else then. Maybe Brenton Cox or maybe an offensive lineman, not sure. At safety, I'd say it's pretty locked and loaded. McKinney, Bullard, Johnson Jr., Williams, and Oladapo. Kitana Oladapo did show out a little bit in the game against the Broncos, made a play or two. And all of those guys have flashed at times, and you can't really release any of them without losing them to another team. So those 5 are probably the ones that'll make it. So that's kind of where the roster's at right now. As far as special teams, Daniel Whelan will be the punter. Matt Orzik, by all accounts, will be the long snapper. Peter Bowden has been picked up and released twice now. And hopefully Orzik just steps it up a lot from last year. And then kicker is still very much up in the air. Both of them have been very up and down. Lately, it's been a lot of down, more so than anything, and it's kind of been rough. At this point, it doesn't feel great for either of those guys. I'm not sure I want either of those guys as my kicker come week 1, but Greg Joseph probably has a slight edge right now. I haven't looked at the numbers lately. But both of them have been very inconsistent, and that's not what you want to see. Hopefully, we can get a better look at these guys here coming up. But we'll see how that shakes out. Not real. I don't know, impressed with either of them so far. So we'll see how that works out. That's very much still up in the air. But the good thing is, if one doesn't work, you can keep the other one on the practice squad and switch them out halfway through the season, and that still might not work either, but, I guess it's worth a try. As far as anything else, Emmanuel Wilson did do pretty good in pass protection as well, which is something you want to see from a fringe, a guy on the bubble trying to make the roster. That's definitely something you want to see. I guess I don't have a ton more to say in this episode. It looks like we're past 30 minutes, so I guess that's good enough. This week, again, we do have joint practice with the Ravens. I'm not sure exactly what day, and I don't know when the next game is either. I'm not sure if I could find that. Oh, quick roster move. Packers re-signed fullback Henry Pearson and waived injured running back Jarvian Howard. They have an abundance of running backs at the moment. Nate McCrary and Ellis Merriweather are also on the roster behind the first four there. I'm not sure if I can find when the joint practice is with the Ravens. Okay, here we go. Joint practice with the Ravens is Thursday, August 22nd. The preseason game is August 24, Saturday. And then the deadline for 53-man roster reduction is Tuesday, August 27. Wednesday, August 28, practice squad formation begins. So, I mean, we're getting right down to the wire. Getting close to the start of regular season. Should be interesting. It's always interesting to see who makes the 53-man roster and who wins what job and how things shake out. So we're definitely getting close to that. We don't have to speculate for too long, and so it should be fun to see what continues to happen. Hopefully the Packers can kind of bounce back last week of the preseason. But to be fair, the Packers were playing their second teamers against the Broncos' first teamers to start the game. So that's not a great way to start. And to his credit, Bo Nix had a very nice game as well against the Packers. So that was my reactions to the game. Kind of really the opposite happened of the first game. Everything did pretty good. The players you wanted to do good did pretty good. Aside from some offensive line performances. And, in this game, there was not a whole lot of good performances at all. But it's preseason, and this is also a lot of players that won't even really be seeing the field for the Packers during the regular season. So nothing to panic about. Just giving my observations, and wasn't a great week, but again, it shouldn't make too much of a difference, and hopefully we'll come back strong next week versus the Ravens. But that will do it for me today. Thank you for listening, everyone, and I appreciate all your support. Thank you for that. Can't wait for some more Packers football for week 1. And, of course, you got fantasy football drafts coming up as well. That's always a lot of fun. So, football is coming back into full swing. Should be a lot of fun. And, of course, you got baseball playoffs coming up as well. So, go Brewers. Thanks for listening, everybody. Go Pack, go.